I'd like to thank you guys for joining me today. Today is the chapter 12 and 13 review of the Atomic Habits. Okay, we've done such an amazing job just going through the chapters, and I've been giving my summary, right? Reviewing it based on my thoughts, both financially and also just in general for life and how the book was written. I believe that the book is very instrumental to anyone's journey for change and developing personal habits that will serve them a lifetime. I really like the principle of not focusing on trying to just change for a certain goal, but you are trying to change your overall perspective, view, and outlook on life. So it's building upon the certain qualities that we have, and that is very important, right? So with that said, chapter 12, okay, of the Atomic Habit. This book is written by James Clear. Now, I've heard very great things, and like I said, so far it's living up to exactly what people have spoken of, right? Some of it is really interesting because when you think about it, you do it, right? When you set a goal, you're like, okay, these are the things that I have to do. But then the point of the book is that when you set goals, you only do it for a certain amount of time. That's why the book dives deeper into how to make a habit, your new habit, a lifestyle, right? So that it's not just based on a goal. So chapter 12, it's about the law of least effort. Now, this gentleman had mentioned in the beginning of the book, I think it was chapter 2 or 3, he was talking about that 1% change that we make every day that will support the changes that we want to have in our life. So that's how we help to form better habits. Instead of trying to just go at it and make this big drastic change all at once, he says 1%, just make 1% effort every single day. It will multiply itself, right? So this one today is talking about the law of least effort. And he talks about conventional methods of thinking, right? We're usually motivating. Motivation is the key to us being able to do things, right? But he states that the real motivation is to be lazy. We like to do things that require the least amount of effort because it's about our energy, right? Anything that requires too much for us to do, it just seems like it's going to be draining. It's going to be difficult. So it's normal to follow the law of least effort because our systems are formed or wired to do something that requires the least amount of energy, right? If you really think about it, there are people who are athletes. Now, these athletes, they have this natural tendency to want to get up and use up energy and move and operate at a certain level. However, most people, you know what, it requires more from us to get up and use up our energy to exercise or get into an activity. There has to be a little bit more incentive for us to be involved, right? So we need to look at what we can do to make it easier, so that way it is something that we will be more inclined to want to do and be able to be consistent when doing it. So he says, think about it, this is my portion. If you look at words that are said, people, when we're talking about certain things, we talk about the shortcut. Where is the shortcut to, if we're going somewhere? We don't want to go the long route, right? You want to take the shortcut. That's why we have blueprints, because instead of you having to go through the whole process of figuring something out, if somebody's already done it, they already have the blueprint. If you can get a copy of the blueprint, would you rather the blueprint or would you rather go the long route? Would you rather try to figure it all out on your own? So it's what can give us the least amount of time to put in effort to get something done is what we're usually inclined to do. He said every action requires a certain amount of energy. The more energy required, the less action. Very unfortunate, but I could say for myself, I understand it is true. We will take, I said that down. So we want the outcome to be something that does not take up too much of our time, especially when it's something that's new. So example, it requires a lot of discipline, thought, organization to do certain things, right? Especially when you're making a total lifestyle change. So I put out the it's usually the outcome that we want is what they're saying. He's saying here, you want the outcome, but everything that happens prior to that happening, so you don't really want to do all of that. You really just want to get to your goal. So I will use the example of having an emergency fund, right? We want the emergency fund, but there's so many steps that you have to go through to get an emergency fund set up. Now, one, we have to go over the income and expenses, wants and needs. We got to prioritize their importance. Got to negotiate certain things. What are you willing to lose or gain in that process? You got to think about that. You may need to call and make some negotiations with some of your the companies that you actually have to pay, the lenders or whoever it is that you have an agreement with. You may have to take something away entirely because you know it's not necessarily serving you. These are all the steps, just some of the steps that it takes to building up an emergency fund. You will also have to calculate your weekly expenses and income so that way you would know where the extra money is, so that way you can pull that money to use it for the emergency fund, right? So look at all those steps required to build an emergency fund, but at the same time, these are part of the goals, right? So when we think about all of that sounds like a lot. And a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's a turnoff. I got to do all of that. You know what? They might start and they're going to try to do everything all at once. And then all of a sudden, it just seems like too much. So you know what? Back to the regular routine. To be honest, I'm going to tell you guys the honest to God truth. It is true. For myself, it took a lot out of me to start my debt repayment journey. And when I started the journey, I did not say, okay, I want to pay off my debt, so I'm just going to do this. I didn't do that. I actually took about 2 months to literally organize myself, go over everything, get my mindset prepared for the changes that I would be making. I had a discussion in my house about what the financial situation would look like on my part. I knew that there were certain changes that were going to be made and certain things that I couldn't do. I had to condition myself to be prepared for the changes that I was making because I knew that this was something that I really wanted. And fortunately, I did extremely well with staying on track and doing everything the way I needed to for that time period. And then COVID hit, you know what I mean? So I have one more debt to pay, and I am going to pay it off this year. Before summer, I will have it paid off. However, when the financial situation changes, then you have to reevaluate everything and then go again. So with that said, I did fall off a little bit on how I had structured certain things because I had accomplished so much. So then after it was like, okay, now I need to restructure where this money is going. And I did that, but I didn't, I was very meticulous, like every little detail I was watching. I was doing that a lot at the beginning and throughout my debt repayment journey, but I fell off a little bit. And when I caught myself, I realized, okay, am I going to sit down and beat myself up, or are you going to get back up and keep going? So most recently, I'm now reevaluating everything because I know that this year it's to finish paying off a debt, one more, and then after I have the I Declare challenge that I started in January, and that's for me to save money for my emergency fund. So I know that I still have more to do. The habits that I started to form previously, I'm going to carry that through to help me accomplish the goal for the end of the year, and also to develop a lifestyle of making sure that there's money always there. Money that's not just a regular savings, it's money that's left just in case of an emergency, right? Not to say that I don't have other financial goals that I have to save for, but at the same time, this year for 2021, it's about the emergency fund and paying off the rest of that debt. So that will get done. But the thing is, it's being consistent in all the activities that requires me to accomplish the goal. And it does seem challenging, but the thing is, he's saying the law of least effort. So if I had read this before, maybe the way I had implemented the strategies, I could have, been a little bit more diligent, and at the same time also made interest and also paid attention to what I was doing, in the sense of how am I allotting a certain time to do certain things, because as they said, as he mentioned in the book, have a set time, have a certain location, a date, a place, that when you go into that space, you know that is exactly what you're there to do, right? Instead of, you know what, yeah, I have to calculate my expenses today, so I'm just going to do it today. No, because that is just, it's off the whim, and then you may come up with another excuse, or something might show up, and it's like, you're going to do that. So always have a regimented schedule for whatever routine it is that you want to achieve, and do it simply. So he says that we need to make the habit simple and easy, obviously, and we achieve this by just 2 minutes, starting off with a 2-minute allocation to doing whatever the activity is. So how to achieve more with the least effort. So he goes back to chapter 1, as I was just saying, chapter 6, where he talks about having a certain location where you're knowing your environment. Where is it that you are going to be doing this task, right? So you choose a place in your home or in your office. Good morning. Thanks for joining. It's chapter 12 of the Atomic Habits. I'm just going over the law of least effort. So it's about making it very simple, keeping it basic, not trying to overdo it, especially at the beginning of this journey when we're trying to change our habits. What we're doing here is, he says, find a location on where it is that you're going to be changing this habit. So for myself, I think that, for my budgeting, it makes sense that when I go to grocery stores, I keep my receipts. When I come home, I put them in a little envelope. I keep them in the kitchen, right? Do my wipe down to all my groceries and stuff, just get myself loosened up, back into the home, back into the vibe. And then I take some time to just jot down and calculate the amount spent that day, right? That's just a way for me to always make sure that it's written down. This is something that I'm going to be implementing, because I'm finding that, yes, if I say I'm going to do it on such and such a day, and then that day comes and I don't necessarily set a time and a location, and I'm not being consistent with the move, well, then it just seems like too much when I have to find the receipts, come and do this, come and do that. So I figure it's better to do it on the day that I do the shopping. After I'm finished shopping, put away the stuff, sit down, give myself 10 minutes to do my calculations, put the book to the side, and I'm good to go, right? Just get it done at one time, instead of keeping the receipts, going back another day, well, saying that I'm going to go back another day and calculate and then look at everything, and then after you lose the receipt, and it's just too much confusion. So just being consistent in that one moment, right? Then after, he says, prime the environment. Yeah, so, I haven't tried it yet, right? Because this is the thing. The more we read this book, the better it is for us to learn new tactics and techniques. And it's really good to implement some of these strategies, because I'm telling you, like the 5:30 a.m. wake up, honestly, I've been enjoying it. There are some days where I am a little later, but I try not to go past 6:30. And I love the peace of mind that I have in the morning, the time that I have to do what I have to do for myself. So I've been using a lot of the strategies that he's introduced, and I find them very beneficial. The Atomic Habits is a good read. I don't know if did you get yourself a copy? I don't know if you read it, but even so, there's an audio version that you can even listen to on YouTube, just to let you know. And this is the book. Yeah, that's it there. Oops, I spilled my coffee. So, hold on, because I'm recording this. So, yes, he says, make sure that you set up the environment that you're going. Oh, good. I'm glad you got it. Enjoy. I hope you're enjoying it. He says, choose the area. Make sure that you set up a specific time. Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what? I got an audio book, another book. I got it in the form of audio. And honestly, it's the greatest thing. I love it. I love it. Good morning. Thank you for joining. I'm just finishing up chapter 12 of the Atomic Habits, talking about just keeping everything very simple. The law of least effort. Do not overdo. When we set our priorities to make a change, never make it seem like you have to do the most at the first shot. Take it easy. You know what I mean? Take it easy. So, then he goes on to, after that, after you have set up your location, you've thought about the steps that you're going to take, then we need to move on to how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. What's the 2-minute rule? Okay. So he says, what are your daily habits? We need to change our habits and look at them as a ritual, something that we do all the time. We're not going to deviate from that thing. We're going to do that all the time. So you don't necessarily, for you, I don't know how you want to calculate your expenses, because, my interpretation of my review of the Atomic Habits, I'm going to try to use the most examples financially, because my page is about finances, right? So at one point I was calculating my income and expenses once a month, and I found that it worked. It worked at first and it was good. But then I started to notice that it became too much work. So I decided to change it to every 2 weeks, right? Because then at least I can align it with my pay schedule. However, even 2 weeks, because of the amount of receipts and everything that you go through, I figured, you know what? Instead of doing it every 2 weeks, I'm going to make it a weekly goal. So this is something now that I'm implementing as a new strategy, that I want to make it a regular routine, where every single week I take at least 10 minutes to just go over everything. That way I could be a lot more diligent at making sure that, 1, I'm staying on track. 2, it's a task that I'm getting used to doing. 3, it doesn't seem all tedious and frustrating and it's like time consuming. Because the thing is, like he said, you got to make it attractive, right? And when you make it attractive, you have to do it in small amounts of time. So me trying to do everything twice a month, or even once a month at first, was just like, it was a turnoff. But at the same time, I had to do it. Then when I moved it to every 2 weeks, it was better. But at the same time, I realized there's still too much going on at that one time. So that's why now I'm moving to once a week, especially after I do the groceries and I come home, thaw out, then after I just write it down. So this is the new direction based on the information that I'm getting, and I believe it will be a lot better, and it's going to help me a lot more as I move through the journey. So He says that 40 to 50% of our actions are done by habit, right? And habits shape our actions. We take minutes and hours to do them. So an example is like he's saying that our habits are like the entrance way to the highway, right? So here's the goal. The goal is to save $10,000 for the emergency fund. But that's a big goal. But what is it that has to get done? This is the entrance way to this location. What are the steps that have to be taken to get here? Well, those are the things that we have to pay the most attention to and make it very simple. So that way we will make sure that we're doing it. We're consistent. We're enjoying it as we're doing it. We're looking at it as rewarding. We are not having negative thoughts. We're encouraged to continue doing it because we see the growth in the progress, right? So he said it should take 2 minutes at the beginning. Never start a new task by trying to just do it all at once. Oh, I'm gonna do everything today. He says no. Start just by doing it in 2 minute section, 2 minute moments. So when I look at the financial journey, like doing this process financially, I can't necessarily just do a budget in 2 minutes, right? So that's why I was saying that now I'm breaking up my time, because you have to find ways for this stuff to work, right? So instead of writing my grocery list, going to the grocery store, coming back home, putting receipts away, going back and doing this, going and doing that, I'm just breaking it up. Okay, the grocery list is going to get done on a specific day. That's 1. 2, grocery store, receipts, same day. Come home, relax, put the stuff away, come back to the location, sit down, write it down. That's probably about 5 minutes. It shouldn't take long. Get up and go again, right? So you're breaking up the time so it's done in small time slots, but it's still getting done, and it becomes a routine developed over time. So we need to make sure that everything we do them in small stages. That's my everyday. Stop tackling it all at once. I end up losing. Yeah, we do. It's very heavy, and you know what? Does he even say? He says here how to stop procrastinating by using the 2-minute rule. So you know what? Because you see how you said you end up stopping, end up losing time because it's piled up into one. I feel that sometimes, right? So even with daily tasks, right? Daily tasks can even get mumble jumbled if we're not careful. You know, you have this to do, you have parenting, you have your own stuff to do, you have all of these things that you need to do on top of the other responsibilities that people will call and ask you to do, or things that you think of that you didn't do at another time. So for me, I think it's very important that I take action every single time I have something to do. I take action. I want to cut out procrastination. So we have the Discipliner, right? We have the Discipliner. It has the time slots in there, and I know it's not easy to necessarily stick to that. We have children at home. We have various situations. Well, not everybody has their children at home, but if you do, you know how that is on top of it with all that's going on with COVID and a lot of the changes going on in life. So the thing is, it does become more hectic. But what I do like about the Discipliner is you can put the tasks in there, right? And then it's like having a list. I like to write my list the night before, because then in my mind, by the time I go to bed, I don't know, you know how it is. It's your subconscious. You start to think about, okay, I got to get up, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. But instead of my mind racing, telling me all of that, I have a book. I have a book that I can go back to and say, okay, this, tick it off. That, tick it off. that, tick it off. Oh, you know what? That took a little bit longer, so I didn't get to do that. You know what? Hopefully I can get that into my afternoon slot. But I'm not ridiculing myself or speaking to myself bad for not committing it, right? Yeah, it's really helpful when you have that list and you have things written out the night before, because I find the morning of is still too hectic. The night before is a lot easier. So he says what we need to do is make the process easy. When we're starting, so I'm going to use exercise because this one is what he used as the example, and I just figured, you know what, let me use this as the example. So when we start a new process, it's important that we make it very easy at the beginning. So he uses exercise as a form of his example, and he says the very easy part, put on your running shoes. Least effort, least thought. You get the running shoes on, that should get you in a mood where it's like, good morning. Yeah, get your running shoes on and get yourself getting ready for your activity, right? You're in the mind frame. My running shoes are on. All right, I'm going to work it out today. Then he says, you make it easy. So instead of looking at, I got to work out, I need to lose weight, I need to get this many calories off, so I'm going to work out for 1 hour today. If you're a person who's not inclined to be exercising, telling yourself that you're going to work out for an hour or even 30 minutes is not helpful, because it's just something you're not wired up to do, right? So he says, start off small. You get your running shoes on, you feel good. Then you go, okay, you know what? I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. Even if you want to say you're going to jog for 10 minutes, if you can handle that. You start off small and then you move into moderate. Maybe within a few days, you're like, you know what? I'm going to increase it. I'm going to increase it to a few more steps, or I'm going to jog for another 5 minutes on top of it. Instead of looking at it as you have to just start off with the end result of, I'm going to get this whole hour of power and sweat because I need to beat off this fat. We have to be patient with the things that we want to work on. We have to know that it's important to appreciate the steps to the new journey and the new habits that we're developing, because you got to see, how is it working for you as you move through it? Because if that habit isn't served right, gradual steps. Because sometimes we may do things and you think that that's the way that is going to work for you, but then it's not. If you recognize something like, okay, even with the exercising, I realized for myself, I do not like exercising in the house. However, because it's winter, the gyms are closed, it's still something that I need to do. So I had to find what was my thing that I enjoyed doing. I tried a few different programs, right? Before I found the type of exercise program that gets me excited to do it when it's time to exercise. You understand? So the thing is, instead of trying to feel like, well, I have to exercise and every time I do it, it has to be this way. Find the one that works for you. Find the routine that works for you. Pay attention to what's working and what's not, and make certain changes. So that way, by the time you keep going, you're going to realize, all right, I'm getting a groove now. Now I don't even have to tell myself, come on, girl. I don't have to be like, come on, keep going. Come on, you got to get up today and do this. Why are you not getting up? You're not fighting with yourself to do it. You automatically just get up and you start to move, because that's what building the habit is for it to become an automatic process where we start to just move and go through whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. He said every action should be a basic but vital move to assisting the end result, and it should be done in small steps. So I'm saying in this process that we're going through, we need to be patient, we need to be conscious. We need to create a great environment that is supportive of whatever it is that we're trying to do. We need to make sure that you know what, the people around us are aware of what we're trying to achieve, so that way you have their support, or if anything, you don't have any distractions from them, right? Because if people are aware of what you're doing, then that way they can give you that time to do it, or they can encourage you to make sure. It's like an accountability, right? They can say, hey, you know, oh, you're supposed to go do this. I won't call, or I won't call her during that time because I know she's usually doing this thing at that time. You have that, less distractions as you move through whatever it is. It's important that we think happy thoughts about the changes that we're making and not look at them as punishment, right? If it is something to serve us in the long term, then we have to look at it in a positive way, instead of seeing it as, oh, man, I got a budget, this is so shit, like, oh, I need more money, blah 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 blah. No, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or you have a little bit of money, you still got a budget. So the thing is, it's just a good thing to have a positive mindset about whatever it is that you're working to help you keep going. And then you just got to keep going. We have to be consistent, and just keep moving into whatever it is that we're doing. And if there is that time where there's, you know, because we're human, we may slip. Some life circumstance may happen, something may happen that day, and it just throws you off, and you don't get to take part in whatever it is that you are set out to do. Well, what I do, especially the days that I know, because I try to work out at least three days a week, right, during the weekdays. But if I don't get in that 3 days a week, then on the weekend I make up for the day that I missed. So find an opportunity to make up for missing out on doing whatever it is at a certain day and certain time. Fit it in somewhere else, so at least you still do it. Don't think, oh no, I didn't get it done on that day and that time, so I can't do it. Don't do that. Find time to fit it in. So with that said, that is chapter 12 and 13 of the Atomic Habits. I realize that the more I go through the book, because it's all about certain tips on what to do, now it's actionable tips, it's less information that I'm sharing. And then before, I was just giving you guys a whole lot of the book, but really and truly we need the main points. What do we need to implement to help us just form better habits and make sure that we're consistent with it, right? And we enjoy the process. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today. You have a blessed day. Enjoy your morning. And I'll see you next Wednesday for chapter 14 and 15. All right? Take it easy. Bye, sugar.